On the day of the 4D ultrasound, my wife, Victoria, aborted our fully formed baby, Little Dragon, behind my back. Then, she turned around to become a surrogate for her old flame, Ethan Vance, even telling me to be understanding and give her money for IVF. After I had our baby's ashes made into a necklace, I canceled all her cards. 1. I went to park the car and asked Victoria to wait for me, but she insisted on going to the prenatal checkup by herself. When I got to the floor, all I saw was our fully formed Little Dragon in the trash can. My eyes were bloodshot. I was going mad, ready to complain to the hospital, but Victoria grabbed me, her face pale, and chided, "Are you crazy?" I agreed to it. I had Ethan sign for you. Ethan Vance, the man she'd secretly loved for 7 years. Her old flame. I was furious, my eyes wide with panic. This isn't real, is it? That baby wasn't ours, right? I couldn't believe it. She was so frail, how could she bear to abort our hard-won child for Ethan? But I had underestimated her love for Ethan. Can't you understand? I agreed to it. If we conceived once, we can conceive a second time. She looked exhausted. Inducing labor at this stage of pregnancy is incredibly damaging to the body, especially since her constitution was already weak. I once doubted we'd ever have children. It felt like a blessing from heaven when she conceived naturally. I don't believe it after everything we went through for this child. How could you be so heartless as to abort it? I was so angry. My teeth chattered, my emotions spiraling out of control. No, Victoria, let's call the police. He must have manipulated you, right? We'll make him rot in jail. Victoria shook off my hand, her tone icy. We don't have a child anymore. I felt like I'd been plunged into an icy abyss, but her next words sent a fresh wave of rage through me. I'm going to be a surrogate for Ethan. My eyes widened. I couldn't tell which of us was crazier. She looked at Ethan with adoration, her voice so soft it could melt butter. His wife is infertile and can't have children. I'll have one for him. As if only then remembering that I was her husband. Her expression hardened as she informed me coolly, "Don't worry, we'll do IVF. There won't be any sexual contact." I stared at her coldly. Thank her for clarifying. I was just short of being completely cuckolded. 2. Ethan and Victoria were high school classmates. During those tender years, Victoria had a secret crush on Ethan, who was a top student. Even after we got together, she would always tell me how outstanding Ethan was. I was always the one made to feel inferior, but I didn't care. After all, I was the one who married Victoria, not Ethan, and now my wife was going to carry Ethan's child? At that moment, Ethan put on a fake smile. He called me magnanimous and Victoria understanding, saying he'd give us a large sum of money after the baby was born. His smile was despicably sickening. I wanted to smash Ethan's head in with my fist. Ethan completely disregarded me, looking at Victoria with satisfaction, as if she were a piece of merchandise. "Victoria," he said, "it's settled then. Take good care of yourself, and in 6 months we'll start planning for the baby." Victoria nodded shyly. A chill ran through my heart. All these years of marriage meant less than a single word from Ethan. The air conditioning in the hospital was strong. I squatted down, tears in my eyes, and took our baby out of the trash can. Just then, Victoria tried to sit up, wincing in pain, and called for me to help her. Her ability to conceive was largely due to the care I'd taken to improve her health. No matter how difficult things had been before, I'd never considered IVF for us. Now, I wondered how she planned to be a surrogate for Ethan with her weakened body. For the first time, I was cold to her. "Do it yourself," I said. "I'm not in the mood." With that, I cradled our baby and walked out. Hearing her curses and the sound of things breaking behind me, I didn't look back. After I had the baby cremated, I put the small amount of ashes into resin and had it made into a necklace, which I wore. After Victoria was discharged from the hospital, she quit her job and stayed home to recuperate and prepare for pregnancy. I ignored all of it, even commuting to and from work more regularly than before. Once I stopped making her breakfast and late-night snacks, my sleep improved significantly, and I had more energy for work. I used to prepare nutritious meals for her, create muscle relaxation plans. Everything I did was for her well-being. But now Victoria was unworthy. I used to cherish her like a precious jewel, not so she could degrade herself. The moment she decided to be a surrogate for Ethan and aborted our child with her own hands, my heart died too. 3. Running into Ethan was unexpected. He was usually very elusive, only appearing when he needed Victoria. My company assigned me to collaborate on a new project with the Zenith Group, and their representative happened to be Ethan. He negotiated with me with a smile, offering concessions. I successfully secured this crucial partnership for the company. As he was leaving, he leaned in and whispered in my ear, "Consider this a thank you for your wife's surrogacy." I clenched my fists, lips pressed tight, saying nothing. A colleague called out to me, and I snapped back to reality and left with them. Ethan watched me go with a smirk, his eyes full of calculation. When I got home, I found the kitchen in a complete mess. A burnt pot, water all over the floor, and egg yolks splattered on the walls. And Victoria, drenched from head to toe. She bit her lip, watching me. When I ignored her and headed straight for the bedroom, she finally called out to stop me. "Sincere, can you still make me that special chicken broth you used to make for me?" After the miscarriage, she was extremely weak and anemic, wanting to replenish her strength. Before, she wouldn't have had to lift a finger. She'd just ask, and I'd bring it to her. But now, it's not difficult. "Look it up yourself," I replied coldly and went back to the bedroom with my laptop. Halfway through refining the project proposal, she knocked on the door again, asking how to make the medicinal tonic I used to prepare. She leaned against the doorframe, her small face pale, looking rather pitiful. I touched my necklace and softly whispered, "Baby." Her eyes lit up, and she came in with small steps. "You're finally talking to me. It was just a child. Is it worth giving me the silent treatment over?" I knew her. She needed me now. That's why she was acting submissive. The cold, heartless woman in the hospital was the real her. Seeing I was unmoved, she couldn't keep up the act. "I promise you, it's conceived through artificial insemination and then implanted. I won't have any sexual relations with him." 4. She thought that was what I cared about. A chill spread through my heart. When I didn't speak, her face turned completely cold. "I've humbled myself enough. You'd better appreciate it or you'll regret it." From that day on, we were in a full-blown Cold War. Previously, it wouldn't take 3 days before I was buying her flowers, cooking meals, and coaxing her with kind words to make up, and I'd still have to gauge her mood and expression. But now, I didn't care anymore. I was busy with project planning at work, while she was busy cooking at home. During a break, I saw her social media post, a picture of a delicious-looking meal, complete with 2 sets of plates and cutlery. The caption read, "Through all seasons, sharing meals with you is the best." I calmly scrolled past it. The next day was Friday. I took the day off to go to a lawyer's office and take stock of our assets. Since we got married, my salary card had been with her. But to my surprise, apart from the apartment we currently lived in, other properties, cars, and even investments had been sold or spent. There was hardly anything left of our joint assets. Coming out of the lawyer's office, I took a deep breath to calm myself. I had once planned our future for her, working desperately to earn money to provide good conditions for her and our child. And all of it had gone to benefit someone else. When I got home, I saw her drinking a nourishing soup. The ingredients were ones I had bought and stored in the cupboard. When I mentioned that the assets didn't seem right, it was like I'd touched a raw nerve. "I married you, so what's wrong with using some of the money? Besides, I was pregnant before, and there were many expenses." Seeing me stare at her without speaking, she finally admitted she'd given the money to Ethan, my own wife, and she was going to have his child. I was so angry I almost laughed. I must be the luckiest guy alive. Victoria realized something was off and frowned, asking, "Why are you asking about this? You never cared about the household finances." That's right. After we got married, I never asked about money. No matter how much I earned, it went directly into her account. I only kept a few $1,000s for expenses, But in the end, not only was I supporting someone else's future mother, but I was also giving them our money. What's with that look? Ethan's company needed cash flow. He wrote an IOU. He'll definitely pay us back with interest. She was unconcerned, trusting Ethan completely. It was evident even back in college. When Ethan and I participated in student council activities together, if he broke equipment, it was excusable. If I merely moved equipment, it was unnecessary. My face was grim. I knew Ethan's recent moves were aimed at taking his company public. He was using Victoria, and she was blissfully unaware, practically helping him count his gains. 5. When my in-laws cornered me at the company entrance, they unleashed a torrent of accusations. The elderly couple had worried about Victoria for half their lives. Only after Victoria married me did they feel their daughter had someone to rely on, and they were completely satisfied with me. But now, while asking why they'd come, I led them to the break room to avoid the prying eyes of my colleagues. My father-in-law, Arthur, was a retired military man. He had an air of authority without being angry. He slammed his palm on the table, making the teacup rattle. "How dare you? What do you mean by making Victoria have an abortion? She's our only daughter, and we were about to have a grandchild. How could you be so cruel?" My mother-in-law, Eleanor, sat beside him, wiping her tears. My parents passed away early, and I genuinely treated Arthur and Eleanor like my own. At this moment, however, my heart felt incredibly cold. After all this time, could they still not see what kind of person I was? "Mom, Dad, it wasn't me. I'm devastated about the baby, too. What good is being devastated? Can devastation bring the child back to life?" Arthur had a fiery temper and was so enraged he almost fainted. I quickly helped to calm him down. I didn't dare tell him about Victoria's plan to be a surrogate for Ethan. After a long while, his lips trembling, he berated me, saying the child was hard won, and as Victoria's husband, I couldn't even protect our child. I wasn't fit to be a man. Eleanor also held my hand, complaining that they had misjudged me. They knew that given Victoria's physical condition, conceiving a child was a miracle. I touched my necklace, a bitter expression on my face. Arthur thought he had hit my sore spot, and disappointment filled his eyes. He sighed deeply. "We originally thought you were a good son-in-law, that you could live a good life with Victoria. We never expected you. It was Victoria who aborted the baby behind my back. The one who signed the consent form was Ethan." What did you say? 6. After calming my in-laws, I realized it was already quitting time. I went home with my half-finished project proposal. It was going to be a late night. Opening the door, I saw Victoria and Ethan having a candlelight dinner. When Ethan saw me, he smirked and said, "Perfect timing. Care to join us?" I ignored him, changed my shoes, and went to my room. I don't know how much time passed before Victoria opened the door and came in. She frowned, annoyed that I had ignored Ethan. I snorted, not responding, my fingers flying across the keyboard. Seeing I wasn't paying attention to her, she came over, closed my laptop, and asked for money. "I'm out of money. Where's your salary for this month?" "Oh, right." After I reviewed our assets, I had changed my salary account. "I haven't been well, and you've been ignoring me all this time, not cooking or doing housework. I've lost weight from all the stress." I looked her over and sneered, "Don't you have Ethan? If you need money, ask him. If you need food, get him to cook." Hearing my sarcastic tone, she thought I still had feelings for her. Her voice softened. If I gave her $2 million, she would pretend my recent coldness never happened, and we could go back to living a good life. Hearing this, I finally looked up at her. "What makes you think we can still live a good life together?" Victoria found me unreasonable. "Ethan's wife can't have children. I'm just having a baby for him through IVF. What are you so stressed about? You've changed. You weren't like this before." The more she spoke, the colder my heart grew. Ethan was her old flame. For him, she could abort our child. For him, she could pay to be a surrogate. And I, who had painstakingly cared for her like a delicate flower, was trampled by her into the mud. I looked at her face, and the world around me seemed to go silent. She was like an irrational stranger. Victoria Ashford, I suddenly spoke. She froze, her tone unfriendly. What? Let's get a divorce. 7. Victoria couldn't believe it. She pointed her finger at my nose, cursing. Sincere Miller, I went through so much to carry your baby. How can you say such cold words? I'm treating this as nonsense. Divorce is out of the question. Just as she finished speaking, her phone rang. It was Ethan, saying he had forgotten his wallet in the living room and asking her to bring it down. Without a second thought, she immediately ran off. The living room light turned on and then off, followed by the sound of the door closing. The next day, I went to work as usual and saw Victoria, pale-faced, leaning against the door. I walked past her, ignoring her, but she grabbed my wrist. She forced a weak smile. Sincere, you'll help me, won't you? I raised an eyebrow. She had been fine last night. How could she change so completely overnight? My silence made her anxious. Please help Ethan. He really needs the money. Otherwise, the company he's worked on for 5 years will collapse. Ethan was still providing projects to our company. He didn't seem like someone short of money, and he was still pestering Victoria to have a child. If he had no money, how would he raise it? A thought suddenly struck me. The IVF procedure, who's paying for that? Victoria's eyelashes fluttered. Of course you are. You're my husband, you should pay for me. I had an I knew it expression. I shook her hand off and went straight to work. Unexpectedly, my father-in-law called. He asked why Victoria had gone to them for money the previous night. They had long worried about their daughter's lack of financial planning and had always entrusted their money to me. I hadn't told Victoria about this sum. It was purely their retirement savings, kept in a separate account. At this point, remembering her pale face, I realized something serious might have happened. I quickly asked for leave and rushed back, and sure enough, I found Victoria unconscious in the living room. I immediately took her to the hospital. The cause was excessive blood loss any later, and her life would have been in danger. Has the patient recently given blood? Her physical functions are already very poor. She must rest well. 8. I was completely confused and about to deny it when her phone lit up. A new text message caught my eye. It was clearly from a shady, unlicensed clinic, telling her to go sell blood again in 3 days, same old place. I had thought her weakness was due to preparing for pregnancy so soon after the miscarriage. She had sold her blood for Ethan? My hand trembled uncontrollably. I had to grip the bed rail to steady myself. How much love did it take to go to such lengths? Looking back on all our years of marriage, let alone selling blood, she had never even handed me a cold pill when I was sick. My in-laws were extremely worried, still asking about her condition at 4 in the morning, even wanting to come and see Victoria. I considered them my own parents and didn't dare let them know Victoria's true situation, trying my best to hide it. Victoria woke up when I, exhausted, had fallen asleep by her bedside. She couldn't reach her phone and kept nudging it further away with her finger, which woke me up. Sincere, give me the phone. Her voice was hoarse, her eyes filled with urgency. I handed it to her. The moment she saw the message, her face turned ashen. How is that possible? They said the money would arrive that night. Where's the money wearing a hospital gown? Victoria screamed in despair, not understanding what had gone wrong. Suddenly she grabbed me, frantically cursing me. It must have been you. You transferred my money, didn't you? Before I could speak, Ethan's call came through. She answered instantly. Ethan, on the other end, was pressing her for money. Hearing there was none, his tone became cold and ruthless. He was treating Victoria like a human ATM. I snatched the phone and hung up, yelling that Ethan was a fraud, trying to make her see reason. But she was like someone possessed, lost in her own world, unable to escape. Finally, a doctor rushed in and gave her a sedative. I didn't know how Ethan had brainwashed her to make her so blindly devoted. The company project was nearing its end, and I had to go back first. I had to say, although Ethan was trash in his personal life, backed by the Vance family conglomerate, the profits from his projects were considerably high. Our company consequently received Series C funding. Everyone in the company was happy, except me. because on the day I returned, I was fired. 9. After completing my departure procedures, the hospital called me. Ethan had taken Victoria to be discharged. My eyelid twitched. Although I was very disappointed in Victoria, I had loved her for so many years. And besides, this could potentially involve a life. After much thought, I used her phone's location to find her. When I found them, I saw Ethan urging her to transfer money, and her face was even paler. I strode forward, pulled Victoria behind me, and sternly warned Ethan not to act recklessly. As long as we weren't divorced, I was her husband and had an obligation to protect her. Smack. Victoria broke free from my hand and slapped me across the face with all her might. Get lost, it's all your fault. I'm like this. Her lips were pale. After hitting me, she ran to Ethan's side. Ethan put his arm around her triumphantly, provoking me. Is there anything else, Mr. Miller? I calmed down, looked at them coldly, and clapped my hands. Nothing. You two continue. Don't come crying to me even if you die. By the way, the divorce papers are at home. Remember to sign them. It was my fault for being a slow learner, for not having learned my lesson from Victoria yet. After that, I got busy. I contacted former clients, negotiated collaborations, and established my own independent brand. To make a strong debut for my independent brand, I rushed between several cities overnight. I constantly improved designs, tested the market, and finally settled on a plan. I had given up many opportunities before to take care of Victoria. Many business partners had urged me to start my own business, otherwise I'd be wasting my talent. I hadn't thought much of it then. Now, when I told those clients I had become an independent brand owner, they all extended olive branches. Starting a business wasn't easy, but I enjoyed it immensely. I hadn't felt this excitement of striving for a long time. Just as I was rubbing my hands together, ready to go to M-City for promotion, a large number of my design manuscripts were leaked. 10. The market was flooded with imitations and counterfeit goods. It caught both me and my client completely off guard. The full brand rollout was about to begin. We activated our emergency plan while investigating where the leak had occurred. When tracing the source, we tracked it back to Ethan's company. I immediately thought of Victoria at home. Lately, to save time, I had been sleeping in the study. I'd wake up and modify designs and plans, and when I was tired, I'd just sleep at my desk. Only Victoria could have done it. Once I was half asleep and saw her come in, but I was too exhausted and fell back asleep. Before I could confront her, Ethan launched a second wave of updated products. They were new designs I had just finished the previous night. I was seething with rage and caught Victoria red-handed that night. She adamantly denied Ethan had told her to steal them until I showed her the security footage. You don't have a job, so all those designs are useless. It's better to let Ethan sell them and make some money. As she spoke, she became more confident. In her eyes, I was just a worthless nobody. But you're quite capable. Those manuscripts made Ethan millions of dollars. Just consider it repayment for what I borrowed from you before. She, however, was beaming now that Ethan had made money. Suppressing my anger, I asked, "So, have you signed the divorce papers?" Her expression changed, and she cursed me for being ungrateful, dodging the question. I couldn't stay in that house anymore. I rented an apartment outside. To make up for the leaked manuscripts, I worked myself to exhaustion. On the very last day, I replaced all the originally planned manuscripts, and the factory worked overtime. Finally, we launched on schedule. Thanks to Ethan's products testing the waters and providing advanced publicity, our optimized products were more easily accepted by the market. We quickly surpassed Ethan's products and regained our market share. After Victoria could no longer steal my manuscripts, Ethan didn't treat her well either. Just 3 months later, he was pressuring her to prepare for pregnancy. 11. I filed for divorce. While awaiting the lawsuit, I heard that Ethan had approached Victoria with ulterior motives. Since I started as a brand owner, I had met brand managers from many companies. Ethan's reputation among them was extremely poor, completely the opposite of his persona in college. But he was good at faking it. Anyone who didn't know him well would be completely deceived by him. Only a love-struck fool like Victoria would blindly worship him. Ethan was the illegitimate son of the Vance family conglomerate. After being acknowledged by the Vance family, he was never well treated and no one truly accepted him. However, the Vance family had few direct heirs, and old Mr. Vance had long declared that whoever could give him a legitimate grandson would inherit all his power and property. Ethan himself was not favored, but his child still had a chance. That's why he approached Victoria. And Victoria was still in the dark. When I saw her again, her belly was slightly protruding. Even when doctors strongly refused to perform IVF on her, Ethan just found other doctors. Eventually, some private hospital performed the surgery. That money, too, she had raised by selling some of her jewelry. A scumbag and a despicable woman, a perfect match. Victoria was shockingly thin, but she was radiant, caressing her belly with a look of contentment. It was a painful sight for me. When she was pregnant with my child, she always complained that the baby made her ugly and stupid, cursing the child all day long. But now, she looked like a real mother, radiating a gentle aura. How ironic. When she saw me, hatred flashed in her eyes. "Sincere Miller, you've ruined me, and yet you still want to divorce me. I really misjudged you," I sneered. "Well, I certainly can't compare to your Ethan. Nurture your pregnancy well. Good luck." She was dissatisfied with my reaction, but I ignored her and walked past, lest I upset her and be blamed for any complications with her pregnancy. 12. After Victoria became pregnant, Ethan hired a nanny and a maternity nurse for her. They supposedly took meticulous care of her. Of course, this child was Ethan's entire gamble. Consequently, his attitude towards Victoria also improved considerably. Even in the 21st century, one could still witness the drama of gaining status through a son. I had no time for these things. I had collected a lot of information about Ethan stealing core technologies from various companies. Backed by the Vance conglomerate, the company he founded received initial funding, but subsequent developments were almost all based on stolen designs, involving dozens of companies and enormous sums of money. But he covered his tracks well. The police and victims couldn't find any evidence. I managed to get it, thanks to Victoria. She lived alone at home. When the nanny and maternity nurse were briefly away, I easily found her computer. As expected, it contained many files transferred to Ethan. Ethan trusted her a lot. The documents on the computer regarding various core technologies were only encrypted. I took the computer, cracked the password, successfully copied these files, and handed them over to the police. After a week of investigation, it was confirmed that of Ethan's two companies, one was merely a shell company, and the other was about to go public. As the investigation deepened, an astonishing secret was also discovered. That same day, I had someone anonymously pass this information to Victoria. Ethan had no wife at all. He merely wanted to use Victoria as a surrogate to have a child. After Victoria found out, she called me dozens of times, cursing me for being heartless and spreading rumors. "Sincere Miller, if you can't have something, you have to destroy it. Is that it? I'm finally pregnant with Ethan's child. You're just jealous, aren't you? You're like a scheming rat living in Ethan's shadow, unable to bear the light, so you want to destroy me, destroy him." I sipped my coffee. Fine. My best wishes for their eternal, locked-in happiness. 13. Ethan's company was all show and no substance. From Victoria alone, he had received nearly $5 million. That included our joint property. After my brand launched, his market share shrank drastically. The factories and manpower he had expanded gradually became a burden, and he began to default on wages. Victoria was pregnant, and he still forced her to take out loans. Under the influence of pregnancy hormones, Victoria became increasingly depressed. She gradually noticed Ethan's abnormalities. She found out that Ethan's company was a shell corporation, all for show, with most of its assets from illegal sources. Let alone going public, even normal operations were a distant dream. Ethan had been deceiving her all along. Her world completely collapsed. Later, she confronted Ethan, wanting an explanation, but he put her under house arrest, starving her for 2 whole days before releasing her, only because of the child in her belly. Ethan warned her that if she dared to harm the child, he would cut her into pieces. She had never seen such a ferocious Ethan and was terrified, trembling. She became silent and withdrawn after returning home. Most of the time, she would stare blankly at our photos together. As the new year approached, my in-laws also brought many local specialties, preparing to celebrate with us. We did this every year. In previous years, it was always harmonious, a lively family celebration. This year, well, I was in my rented apartment, eating barbecue and drinking beer alone, watching the security camera feed from home. My in-laws were incredulous to find Victoria pregnant again. They were so shocked they could barely speak. Victoria forced a smile and tried to explain, but her father slapped her. He had never been willing to hit Victoria. This time he was thoroughly enraged. Eleanor, after all, pitied her daughter, hugged her, and shielded her from Arthur's blows. Hearing Victoria wanted to divorce me, Arthur was so furious he fainted and was rushed to the emergency room on New Year's Eve. I pursed my lips, a bad feeling creeping in. Sure enough, she called me. She was going to jump off a building. 14. She asked me to take care of her parents. I cursed under my breath, threw on some clothes and ran out. It wasn't that I had softened. It was just that her parents had only this one daughter, raised with such hardship. I couldn't let them bury their child. Even if she died, she shouldn't let me know. When I arrived at the hospital, a large crowd had already gathered on the ground floor. Many fire trucks were there, and an air cushion had been laid out. I found the fire captain, identified myself, and requested to go up. Eleanor had just come from the emergency room, clutching her chest, gasping for breath. Two of her closest relatives, one whose fate was unknown, the other about to jump. She was just an old woman. She couldn't bear all this. Just as she was about to collapse, I quickly supported her and softly called out, "Mom." Hearing my voice, she seemed to grab onto a lifeline, begging me to save Victoria. Victoria was calm, but her will to live was low. When she saw me, her eyes lit up for a moment, then quickly dimmed again. She called my name over and over, apologizing profusely. I was so stupid. He treated me like that, asked me for money, forced me to sell my blood, made me become a surrogate just 3 months after my miscarriage. With each sentence, a tear silently rolled down her cheek. Any normal person could see he was using me, but I was foolish enough to do everything he said, step by step. Am I despicable? Even I feel I'm despicable. She cried and laughed like someone who had lost her mind. I coaxed her gently, as if nothing had changed, as if I were still the man who cherished her above all else. Hearing my voice, she burst into tears. "Sincere, I'm so sorry. I regret it so much, so much." It was too late for that now. Seeing her emotions escalate, the fire captain signaled me to guide her towards a more positive line of thought. So I talked about our past, the little moments we shared. The more I spoke, the harder her tears fell. As she gradually immersed herself in memories, her body, which had been dangling precariously, began to lean back. I lunged forward, pulled her into my arms, and we tumbled back from the railing. Feeling the warmth in my embrace, I finally dared to breathe a sigh of relief. She blinked her eyes and asked, "You risked your life to save me. Do you still love me?" Without looking down at her, I found her question laughable. "I just didn't want Mom and Dad to suffer the pain of losing their daughter." 15. Due to excessive shock and grief, she lost the baby in her womb. And after undergoing a late-term induced abortion and then IVF before her body had recovered, her health was completely ruined. Arthur, after a night of emergency treatment, was also out of danger. The doctor told Eleanor that Victoria would never be able to conceive again. I thought Eleanor would be very disappointed, but she just gently shook her head. She only prayed for her daughter's safety and health, daring not to hope for anything more. I slowly backed out, but at the door, I saw Ethan. He walked in with a grim expression. When Victoria saw him again, there was no longer any adoration on her face. It instantly darkened. Ethan cursed her as a useless thing, wasting his money, saying she couldn't even keep the baby despite being well cared for and might as well die. Eleanor couldn't bear to hear it and lunged at him, trying to beat him, but he grabbed Eleanor's wrist, looking as if he might break it. Eleanor cried out in pain, and Victoria, her eyes bloodshot, cursed him for being despicable and shameless. From the side, while they were cursing each other, I pushed Ethan away, and when he loosened his grip, I pulled Eleanor to safety. When dogs bite dogs, they all end up with a mouthful of fur. Just don't involve the innocent. After today, the two of them had completely torn off all pretenses. Victoria knew many of Ethan's secrets. It was either provide an heir or die. After taking Eleanor to Arthur's hospital room, I received a notification on my phone. The judgment for the divorce I had filed had finally been issued. After today, Victoria and I were no longer husband and wife. After that, I focused wholeheartedly on my company's affairs. The brand I founded was very popular. Products were selling out on the market. Many clients sought me out for co-branding or collaborations. For a time, I was incredibly busy. The company doubled in size. I had thought that after Ethan's company was exposed as a shell corporation, it would be shut down, but the Vance conglomerate bailed him out. Even so, he posed no threat to me. I was truly getting rich. 16. After Arthur woke up, I went to visit him. He sighed, blaming himself for not raising Victoria well, saying she wasn't good enough for me. I was indifferent to this and handed him the card with their retirement savings. I sincerely consoled my in-laws, hoping they could enjoy their later years in peace. Victoria, who was able to get out of bed, came to visit and saw my sincerity towards her parents from the doorway. She was even more overwhelmed with guilt. But then she remembered Ethan's words, and a deep hatred filled her eyes. That demon Ethan had actually threatened her using her parents. If she dared to expose what Ethan had done, he would have her parents killed. Although she was foolish and despicable in matters of love, she was very filial. Initially, her parents had thought highly of my character, and since I genuinely loved Victoria, they were 100% satisfied with me. When they asked her to marry me, she did, but the Ethan she herself had chosen was a wolf in sheep's clothing. She wished she could skin him alive looking in from the doorway. The scene of me chatting and laughing with her parents made us look more like a family of 3 than she ever did with them. She quietly closed the door and left the hospital. She knew what she had to do. For the next whole week, even after Arthur was discharged, Victoria was nowhere to be seen. They were very worried, but knowing we were already divorced, they didn't feel right asking me. In fact, even if they had asked, I wouldn't have known. On the way home, everything was decorated in festive red, a scene of joy and peace. Who would have thought they had nearly faced utter ruin? About a month later, I was habitually watching the news and unexpectedly saw my in-laws on television. I immediately paused it. I heard their choked voices. They were holding an urn. Something was wrong. Why were they on TV and holding an urn? A bad premonition surfaced, but I quickly dismissed it. It can't be that bad. But reality is often that dramatic. Victoria was dead. She had embraced Ethan and ignited a house full of diesel fuel. The two of them, tightly embraced, burned to death. 17. When people reported on the deaths of the man and woman, many romanticized it, their judgment clouded by sentimentality. They even concocted a romantic love story for them. This is how impressions of a person are formed, through word of mouth. Ethan's identity and his actions were far from simple. After his death, the police further compared his biography and his contact list before his death with existing records. They discovered he was actually a fugitive financial criminal. Due to strict crackdowns within the country, many financial criminals operate abroad. To have hidden within the country for so long, it wasn't just the local precinct. Police at all levels would be held accountable. It was a serious dereliction of duty. Many officials felt insecure. An investigation would undoubtedly implicate a whole host of people. On another note, I found that my brand's sales had improved even more. We had initially worried that securing funding would be difficult, but now major companies and conglomerates were vying to partner with us. My company also actively participated in charitable collaborations, which I considered doing good and giving back to the community. Since Victoria died, I had brought her parents to live with me. I called them Mom and Dad, respecting and supporting them as if they were my own parents. The more devotedly I cared for the elderly couple, the more conflicted they felt. How could Victoria have been so blind to fall for that scoundrel Ethan, ignoring a man like me, sincere, with whom they were completely satisfied? She had truly chosen poorly, trading a diamond for dust. I didn't dwell on it. Without Victoria, I actually felt even more warmth towards my in-laws. She used to be a troublemaker between us, causing several misunderstandings between me and my in-laws, but that wouldn't happen anymore. 18. Eleanor found solace in her faith, and I accompanied her to services every month. Today was no exception. It's just that when she looked at me, she sometimes seemed to forget, as if her daughter were still alive. Ethan's company was completely shut down. Not only did he steal financial data, but he also secretly supplied it to subversive groups abroad. The police followed the leads and dismantled the entire network behind him. Meanwhile, I was fully engrossed in building my brand, with no mind for these things. Many people flocked to buy our product merchandise upon hearing about it. Busy as I was, time flew by quickly. In just 2 short years, my company was able to go public, raising more capital for operations. I stepped back from the front lines, usually enjoying a quieter life, focusing on my health. One day, I was brewing tea. I glanced aside and, to my astonishment, saw Victoria downstairs holding the hand of a cute little girl. I took a few steps, wanting to confirm, but the crowd pushed me back. In the end, I couldn't catch up to the wife and child I had cherished for so many years. They disappeared around the corner, their smiles innocent and bright.